afternoon, everyone. My name is Darlette McCormick, and I'm a financial counselor, one of the financial counselors with the Employee Assistance Program. And it's going to be my pleasure to speak with you today regarding one of my favorite topics, which is successful money management. Want to talk about some things today that's going to help you with taking control of your personal finance. Now, successful money management is just basically involves the decisions that you make, the actions that you take in regards to your money that's going to produce the best possible outcome. The first step in this process is going to be defining what your money beliefs are, what your personal goals are, short term and long term. This training is going to guide you through the process of understanding your spending habits, setting some financial goals for yourself, and examining obstacles that may keep you from reaching those goals. So, our learning objectives for today are going to be understanding your money beliefs and how these affect your personal finances. We're going to establish some ways to track your spending, explore proven ways to reduce debt and spending, and develop a personal strategy for taking control of your finances. Now, we want to start by exploring your current budgeting strategy or lack thereof, should I say. A budget done correctly is really going to be one of the best tools for helping you understand your finances, set what your priorities are, and determine what your financial goals are going to be. One of the first questions that you need to ask yourself is, do I spend more than I earn? So, as a financial counselor, this is one of the first questions that I ask when I start to speak with a client. And you'd be surprised, or maybe not so surprised, that most of the people that I speak with, they have no idea where their spending lies. They don't know whether they're spending more than they earn or that they have a surplus left over. Most of us use what I call or live off of what I call a rolling budget. Basically, money comes in, you spend it, you pay your bills, you don't track things, you just kind of keep everything rolling. So, if you run a little short on paying a bill, you're going to roll that maybe a couple of days late. You're going to keep rolling that budget. You're going to roll from one month right into the next and just keep going. So, you really never actually realize what it is you're spending your money on. But when I work with them on developing the budget, I send them a budget spreadsheet and require them to, for 30 days, just to track down what was your income that came in that 30 days or that month? What were the expenses? That forces you to have that static picture to see if I have to live on a monthly basis on what I bring in, can I afford to do it? And so it's pretty surprising and alarming sometimes when people do that budget sheet and see that they're actually overspending by hundreds of dollars. So we talk about, how do you account for that? Where's that money coming from? Are you just doing the rolling budget? Are you dipping into savings to make ends meet every month? Are you putting things on credit cards? So that's a very key question to ask is, do I spend more than I earn? The second question is, what can I afford to spend? And so, really, after you do sit down and write those things out and see whether you're at a deficit or whether you have a surplus, then you can determine more efficiently what you can afford to spend. So, it's kind of a process with some kind of hard things to kind of deal with sometimes. But these are the key questions that you're going to start with. So let me give a survey for you just to consider. We won't have you feedback, but ask yourself, how financially fit are you? Do I have a budget? Am I working on developing a budget? Do I adhere to my budget? And one of the bigger questions I think to ask in terms of how financially fit are you is, what has this pandemic taught you about your finances? Um, it has taught me a lot, quite frankly. And a lot of the people that I speak to are in varying situations with their finances. Unfortunately, quite a few people, not surprisingly, lost work during the pandemic. Some are still getting back to full time hours. Some people, their jobs have gone away, definitely. So, really ask yourself the question, how financially fit are you? And what has this pandemic taught you about your finances? Do you need to work on an emergency fund or paying down debt? Or, was I prepared financially for this? Could I, take care of my family and meet my expenses? So I want you to consider this, as we go through, and really more so after the presentation today. A budget tells us what we can't afford, but it doesn't keep us from buying it. So this is a famous saying that I like to use. William Feather was a famous publisher and author. And so that's basically what a budget does. It can tell you what to do, but it can't make you do it. Now, what are some good reasons to budget? Again, another question that's going to be pretty personal for you. Um, a budget is going to guide you in the direction that you want to be heading, but the question is, where are you heading? A lot of that depends on, where you are in your timeline for life. If you're just graduating from college, you're just getting your first job out of school, the direction you may have is just making ends meet or paying down student debt. If you're, say in the middle of childbearing years and you have young children and you're trying to work and save for college and do different things, that's going to kind of determine, where you're heading as well. But a good budget is going to allow you to better manage your money. It's going to help you to meet your savings goal. It's going to help you to prepare for emergencies. And really important, it's going to reveal areas where you need to cut expenses, where you may be overspending. So, what are the factors that may be influencing your ability to manage money? Again, introspection is the key on this question. Some of us, emotional spending is something that we have to overcome. Now, I will say honestly, during times that I get stressed, there are a couple of different things that I'm going to do. I'm probably going to spend money and I'm probably going to eat. Neither one of them help my situation to the positive side. But I do talk to, quite a few clients. When they get stressed, they spend money. Um, so knowing those spending triggers is going to be very important in this budgeting process. For a lot of us as well, lack of knowledge may influence our ability to manage money. For some of us, you just didn't talk about money growing up. Dad went to work, mom might have stayed home, mom and dad might have worked. Money may have just been something that was difficult to come by in your household. And so a lot of us didn't have those conversations about money management. So we went out on our own, just trying to figure things out as we go, trial and error process. Some of us still, as adults, have not gotten that trial and error process right. So your commitment to improving your situation, and then we all have different levels of commitment and sense of urgency to improve your situation, is really going to drive, where you go with this process. Understanding money scripts. So what are money scripts? Think of money scripts as a program running in the background of your thought process. As you deal with different financial matters, these are things that are going to drive your behaviors around your finances. They're unconscious financial beliefs that run through your mind when you think about money. Identifying these beliefs are going to also be a key in driving your process or how successful you are with budgeting. So there are so many different things that are influencing what our money scripts are and what our money beliefs are. One of the main things is our upbringing. We talked about, how much do you speak about money in your home as you were growing up, experiences that you may have had as an adult. For instance, talk to quite a few couples, do couples counseling. Some come into the relationship where they've been married previously. Money situation didn't work well, or during the divorce, the ex-spouse took them to the cleaners. So they've been very traumatized about money and opening up and being transparent with money with their partner. So they come into the new relationship with that script running in their mind of, you know what, I can't let her completely know or let him completely know what I'm doing with my finances. In the event something goes sideways, I have a little something on the side. So there are a lot of different things that can drive the way we think about money. So let's take a look at some of those money beliefs and how they play out. So here are four that we will talk about. Money avoidance. People with this belief pattern think money is bad. They may say something like, I don't deserve a lot of money when others have less than me. So they're going to do things that are avoiding money. Or they may say rich people are greedy. Or it's not okay to have more than what you need. So these are some of the thought processes that are going on behind the scenes with someone who has a money avoidance belief. Money worship. Now, I've run across my share of those. And those are people with the belief patterns that are convinced that the more money you have, it will solve your problems. They may think things like, well, things will get better if I have more money, or the more money you have, the happier you are, or there will never be enough money. Now, the thing about money worship, it can be the result of a lot of different things. A lot of times when I'm talking to people and they have the money worship belief, a lot of them have come from growing up and they didn't have a lot. And they've gotten to the point where they can finally afford some of the things that they went without growing up. So they feel like, money just answered and solved a lot of their problems. Things, their whole life just changed as a result of them being able to make more money. Now, people with money status, they believe money is for show. The more money you have, it gives you prominence in society. So people with a money status, they may say, well, I don't buy anything if it's new. They have to have the best of everything. They're not going to probably shop at a thrift store or get something secondhand. Um, you may see them with the newest car all the time. They may be people who will lease a vehicle because when the newest and brightest vehicle comes out, they want to have that. And everything is a show. They have to have the biggest house. Their kids have to dress the best. They feel like they are judged or people see them based on the money that they have or the things that their money can buy for them. And finally, money vigilance. So people with this belief pattern are frugal and don't like to talk about money. So some of the money scripts that are associated with this is you should not tell others how much money you have or how much money you make. It's kind of a secret. And I know for the most part, a lot of us we really don't want people to know. Not that it's any of their business. We really don't like for a lot of people to know, how much we make. But they tend to be hoarders when it comes to money. They're constantly watching their money grow, and it becomes stressful if they're not tracking their savings at the rate that they think they should be, or their investments may not be growing at the rate of return that they feel like it should be. And so sometimes you can see with people who have money vigilance, they may tend to be workaholics for no reason, not the fact that they just are trying to make ends meet. It's just that they're watching their money kind of in a miserly way, and they just want to make sure their money is growing.
Darlette,
Yes.
I just wanted to interrupt you for a moment. Are
Sure.
your slides forwarding for you? I have one person who hasn't, we're not seeing the slides go forward.
Yeah, they are forwarding on my screen. What are you seeing? What do you see on the screen now?
We actually are just seeing the opening slide.
Wow. Okay. My apologies here because I am 4 slides in and I have been just talking. Let me see what might be going on here. My sincere apologies. Let me get back to the very beginning. All right. What about now? Are you seeing in advance now?
No.
It is sharing.
We do have a very helpful a participant who
What
says,
about,
stop sharing and then start sharing again, and we'll see if that works.
okay, let's try that. How about now?
Yay, I think
Okay.
you got it. Wonderful.
All right.
Well, I will go
Okay.
back to muting myself. Really quickly though, if someone does want a copy of this, Darlette, can I have them send me their email addresses and then I can forward that to them, or?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so at the end of the presentation, I will, in the chat button box, I'll type my email information. And then
Okay.
if you want to request it at the end, you certainly, or request it anytime, I will send my email address out there. So I'm gonna shut up and let you continue.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
let's get back to you guys and let me know if you're seeing advance. Is it advancing?
Yes, it's working.
Okay. All right. So let me get to where we were. We talked about the beliefs. Okay. Is everybody seeing the 50-20-30 rule now?
Looks good.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So the 50-20-30 rule, as you are looking at your finances and trying to develop your budget and work on where to and how to prioritize your expenses, this is one of the strategies that's pretty popular. It was made popular, I think, by Senator Elizabeth Warren was one person that I heard speaking about this. But basically, it's a way to prioritize how you're spending your money. So the 50% of your income is going to go to those essential things, the things that you must have in order to get by on a day-to-day basis. So things in this category are going to be food and groceries, household supplies, your rent or mortgage, utility bills, transportation costs. Those are the types of things that are going to go under that 50% category. Now, the 20%, this is savings. So this should include, anything that you're saving for in terms of if you're contributing to a retirement savings, maybe you're building the emergency fund, which it's recommended that you have 3 to 6 months of reserve expenses saved in that emergency fund. This could be additional retirement savings, a Roth IRA, maybe you're contributing to, a mutual fund, or it could be that you're, paying off debt, saving for a large purchase, but at least 20% of your income should be going towards your savings goal. And then finally, the 30%, this is what you're going to be spending on the things that you want or your discretionary spending. This is also the category that really gets a lot of people in trouble because this is what I call the lifestyle category. So this category is going to be I go to Starbucks every day. I like to take trips. Every year we take a trip with the family, or I like to, go with my girlfriends or my college group. These are the things that go into this category. Any, like I said, discretionary spending, things that you want to do, things that bring joy to your life. But in your discretionary spending, you're also going to want to see what other additional goals do you have. So, for instance, if you have an excessive amount of debt, while in the 50% category, you're making minimum payments on your debt because that's what's essential and what's required. You may take some of that discretionary spending and you may set a goal of paying that debt off quicker. I don't know if you've ever looked at your credit card statement and seen that scary number there that says if you only make the minimum payment on this balance, it's going to take you 25 or 30 years to pay this debt off. So when you're considering your discretionary income, those are the kind of things that you want to take into account. Or you may have a mortgage And it may be a goal of yours to make extra payments towards your mortgage to pay it off quicker than the long term. So again, the 50-20-30 rule is kind of just going to be a guide as you're going through looking at your expenses and what your priorities are as you begin to establish your budget. So, how do you go about the process of establishing the budget? Step one is going to be preparing. And that honestly is probably the biggest step. Preparation involves preparing your mindset. So, some of the conversations, the biggest part of the conversation I have is talking to people and having them wrap their mind around where they are with their finances. So, if you've been going and just doing and spending and not tracking your debt load, not tracking where your money is going, having that come to Jesus where you sit down and you actually pull your credit reports and you're looking at how much debt you owe and you're looking at all of your statements and you're realizing I'm paying, 29% interest on these credit cards, or you're looking at your emergency fund. I have $500 in emergency savings. My credit cards are maxed out. I have no safety net. So it's important to prepare yourself for that realization of where you are, because this part of it can be pretty intimidating and overwhelming at times if you have not done this. And so I find oftentimes that this is where people need that guidance and that hand holding from me as a financial counselor. They're going to pull their credit reports. They've never pulled credit reports before. So they're going to pull those. We're going to walk through them. We're going to look at everything. Then, hey, get your statements together. Let's look at your statements and understand, what your interest rates are. So that preparation of step one can be one of the hardest steps, depending on where you are in the process. Step two is setting your budget. So that goes back to prioritizing, what you want to spend your money on. Part of that conversation that I have is goal setting. So, kind of when we pull the band aid off and get an understanding of where you are with your finances, we kind of want to decide where you want to go. Where are you in life? What are those goals that you're working on? It may be, I'm getting ready to start a family, so I need to, get some savings. It may be, I have kids that are getting ready to go off to college and I need to get prepared for that. So I find that when you set your budget, having some of those goals in mind is going to be very important because it's going to help you when it comes time to make those hard calls about what you're going to cut back on. Step three is tracking your spending. So it's important to find a method that's going to work for you in order to track your spending. There are various budgeting apps out there. Mint is probably one of the older ones. You Need a Budget is out there. There are a couple of other more popular ones. If you're more of a tech type of person, which I'm not, obviously, as you can see from this presentation, but some people are. So some of those spending tracking apps can give you reminders of where you are in your budget throughout the month. So that could work very well. Some people are just basic pen and paper type people. They take a little notepad and they're writing things down, or they're collecting their receipts as they go shop in the grocery store. They're keeping up with that. And then you have some people who are more spreadsheet people. That's me. I'm more of I look online, look at my transactions, and I kind of track things in a spreadsheet form. So whatever method is going to work for you, it has to be something that fits with your personality type. So selecting that is very important. Step four, you're going to evaluate your progress. So once we've gotten through the part where we've set our goals, we've gone through, we put our spending plan together, we want to track how well we're adhering to what we set in place. So I recommend, after you put that first plan together, you take 30 days and you track your spending to see what your progress was. That conversation that I have after that 30 days, it can go a lot of different ways. Sometimes I'm having that conversation with people and they are just so excited. They have never in their lives had discipline enough to stay within a spending plan. And the fact that they were able to do it is so very exciting to them. And there are people on the other hand that didn't quite do so well with that first time out. So I encourage you, don't beat yourself up. It is a work in progress. It is a trial and error process. You're going to set, limits. So it's probably good to put what your budgeted expenses are in a particular category, and then come back after the fact and put what your actuals are. So you can have those numbers as you're going through and you're evaluating your progress. That could mean some behavioral changes. It could show some out of the ordinary things that happen to cause you to go over your budget. For instance, parents, if you have children, in sports, my sons and my kids have played sports. So I will find that during a particular sports season, I'll probably overspend on my eating out portion because my work's here, I'm working, I'm getting off, we're going to games, we're here, we're there. So during those times, I will find that I am really over in my eating out. But that may mean I have to make an adjustment in another category. So that's part of your evaluating process. Step 5, again, we talked about setting your goals, seeing where you are and thinking about where it is you're trying to go. And then cutting expenses is going to be step 6. Creating your budget. We talked about the process, and that basically is just going to consist of, again, compiling your expenses, looking at your total income. So some people, their income varies. You may have commission-based income. You may have people have bonuses. You have a lot of people who are surviving off of overtime. And when I'm doing the budget, I kind of advise people, if possible, don't count your overtime in, because as we're seeing now, that can change drastically. It can be seasonal. So when you're developing your budget, you always want to put in what your minimum basic income that you can count on will be, not including overtime. Now, if you're commission based, you're basically going to, average what your income has been, say, for the last 6 months or a year. That's basically all you can go off of when you're looking at, your income. Subtract your expenses from your income, and that's going to let you know whether you're at a surplus or whether you're at a deficit. If you come to, a deficit, then that means you're going to have to go back and decide where you're going to cut expenses, because you want to at least break even in the month. So you're going to go back, and that may mean that you don't spend as much eating out. It may be that you have to be a little bit more selective about where you shop, because I understand people have different budgets for food. Some people like to eat very healthy, organic foods. Some people have health reasons, allergies, things of that nature that cause them to overspend in the food category. But if you're overspending in one area, you're going to have to go back and compensate in another area. So you just kind of continue to repeat the process, rework your budget, go back, trial and error until you get a system in place that's hopefully helping you accomplish all of your financial goals. So a couple principles to guide your budget. Making savings contributions automatically may help. So for instance, that's what I do with my own personal budget. I sit down the day of payday and I look at everything that has to be paid. I go ahead and have my automatic savings contributions come out and go to another account. So I don't have to worry about it, out of sight, out of mind. So whatever you can put on automatic savings, go ahead and set that up. It works. Now, a word of caution, it can work against you if you do not have good money management habits down pat. My first thing that I tell people is take everything off of automatic. Auto drafts, I tend to get people in trouble who don't track their spending, because that transaction is coming through your bank, whether you have the money there or not. So make that determination as to whether you're disciplined, whether you have the income there to support making these automatic contributions to savings and automatic debt payments. You want to focus on paying down expensive debt. So look at what your higher interest rate debts are, and then make the determination about how you're going to, pay those off. Are you going to continue to pay them through the credit card? Does it make sense to you to maybe consolidate your debt into a lower interest rate debt consolidation loan? But those are some of the things that you want to look at. You always want to try and pay your debt off at the lowest interest rate possible. And live within your means. Live within your means. Live within your means. Live within your means. I cannot focus on that enough. Warren Buffett credits that. Actually, he says living below your means. He credits that to his success. And it really is. Any type of budgeting system, good money management, you have to live within your means in order to be successful. Defining spending priorities and building a safety net. Again, this pandemic has shown us how very important it is to have a safety net. So let that be one of your main priorities as you go through and determine what your goals are for budgeting. You want to keep the reality in your budget. So, it's as I'm going through and we're setting goals for, eating out and different things as I'm talking to people and they're kind of determining, well, this is what I want to try and stick within for the month. Be realistic. I'm having that be realistic conversation quite a bit right now as we prepare for the holidays. Is if many of you celebrate holidays, it's a time to show love. We like to give gifts for our loved ones, but as I'm telling them, be realistic, set a spending plan, don't spend over your allotted amount. I have to be realistic with them. If you know you're going to spend, we can set the best budget in the world. Be real with yourself. If you know, I just have to get everybody in my family gets gifts for everyone. I'm not at the point where I can tell them I can't do it. So I'm probably going to spend money that I shouldn't be spending. Then have the conversation with yourself about what's the best way to do it. What can I trim back? What can I cut? Because I know I'm going to buy those gifts. So be realistic when you're setting your budget because it makes it easier. You're not going to be able to stick to a budget that's not realistic. Don't let splurging set you back. Allow room for the unexpected. So you don't, if possible, you don't want to have yourself on such a thin margin or such a tight budget that, the least little thing just blows everything out of the water. Allow yourself for a few unexpected expenses. Hey, I was driving to work, I ran over a nail, I had to go and get a new tire, another, $200-300 or whatever you spend on your tires. So do that. And you definitely want to, if possible, avoid feeling deprived. That really, again, is going to sabotage your success if your mindset is such that you're just always thinking about, I can't do what I can't do, what I can't do. You really want to change your mindset to one of control. So it's not that I can't do this, but it's that I'm going to allow myself to spend this. Or you know what? I'm going to be ready to make that house purchase next year. And so I want to have X amount saved in order to do that. So I'm taking control. So that may mean I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to eat out as much. I'm not going to shop. I'm not going to buy clothes. But I am going to direct that money towards saving for my house. So again, make sure you're setting goals that are in line with your priorities. So again, what your financial goals are is very important, and only you can answer that question. Again, it depends on where you are, where you're trying to go, those type of things. So sit down. If you're married or you're in a relationship, have that conversation with your spouse. Make sure you're on the same page with your goals. I can't emphasize that enough in some of the counseling sessions that I have where the couple is not on the same page. They have different goals. I talked to one couple and they had an event while they were married that sent them in totally separate directions. The wife had brain cancer. So they were going along, they were doing well. She had a battle with brain cancer. Thankfully, she had her surgery, she went through chemo, she, got over everything. That event sent that couple into totally different directions with their financial goals. It scared the Jesus out of the husband. He felt like, oh my goodness, if this happens again, we have to be financially prepared. So we got to save money. We got to cut back on everything. We can't do this. We can't do that. Well, the wife, on the other hand, having gone through a near death experience, she was like, you know what? Life is too short. Tomorrow is not promised. I'm going to do the things that I want to do in this life because you know what? Money is going to be here when I'm dead and gone. So at the point that they started talking to me, they were really at opposite ends of the spectrum as a result of this event that happened to them. So hopefully your situation is not that dire, but have the conversation to make sure that you are on the same page with your spouse or significant other. We talked about evaluating, trying to move forward and wrap this up because we definitely want to leave time for questions at the end. But evaluating, set a period that you want to evaluate. I recommend when you're first getting started that you do 30-day increments that you evaluate. You come back each month and see where you are. You make that adjustment. And then as you get more proficient with sticking with your budget, then you can go longer periods, 6 months, yearly if it gets to that point. If you're really good and you really changed your behaviors, it may be that once a year you evaluate all of your, financial situations. Here's where I am with my savings, here's where I am with my debt, my retirement savings. So just again, set those increments where they work for you so that you can kind of stay on track with where you're going. So some of the common mistakes that might plague you, not understanding your credit report. We talked about that as one of the beginning steps to assessing what your current financial situation is. I've talked to people. I talked to someone yesterday who has never pulled their credit, and particularly now, it's very important because you do have a lot of fraud that's going on. A lot of people are filing fraudulent unemployment claims and doing a lot of different things right now. So it's very important that you stay on top of what's going on with your credit report. It's important so that you know what the status is of your debt payments. I talked to a gentleman yesterday. He had set some things up on auto draft, speaking of which. And for whatever reason, the payments were not going through on that auto draft. And it was from an account that he really did not have interaction with. So it wasn't his primary banking account. So by the time he caught up with the fact that those payments were not being drafted out, he had 3 months of late payments that had already hit his credit. He had stellar credit up to that point, and so he was devastated about how to go about getting this corrected. So it's very important to track your credit report to see what's going on. Common mistakes, making an unrealistic budget. We talked about that. Continuing unchecked spending. So, if you have emotional spending, whatever that reason is that you have the out of control spending, you've got to get a handle on that. And then ignoring the impact of others. So some people, they like to spend on their children. They can't tell their kids no. So every time their child comes to them, knowing that they really do not have that much of a surplus left, they always give in. So, or family members coming and asking to borrow money. So, we can't ignore the fact or the impact that others have on our finances, but we do have to realize that we have to stay within our own means and we can't really put ourselves at a disadvantage to help others. Knowing situations. So you can't take all the fun out. You have to allow yourself to have some fun. That could be just looking for free events instead of going out and paying a lot of money to see a particular show or to go to an expensive theme park with the family or something. It could just mean doing some really expensive things that you can have fun. Sporadically savings. Again, you want to put yourself, once you get to the point that you do have money that you can save, get yourself to the point where you're saving regularly or making those automatic contributions. Paying only the minimum. That's a dangerous game that we fall into as well sometimes. We oftentimes will make the minimum payment so it's counted as on time, but meanwhile, the interest rate is building up. So we're making a minimum payment of $100 per month, but $200 in interest is being added. So we're actually going in the hole. So we really do have to be mindful that we are, making more than only the minimum payments. Again, the pandemic has reminded us we cannot ignore the importance of an emergency fund and also spending beyond our means. Keep it simple. That's the key to a successful budget. Clean out unused items, have yard sales, thrift stores, secondhand clothing. I've found that you can make some nice little pots of money selling things. A lot of people sell on the internet. So that's, of course, very appealing right now with the pandemic. You can still put things out there on the internet to sell. Focus on buying only what you need and not what you want. Reuse and repurpose what you already have. I am the queen of that. My husband gets angry with me a lot of times because I have stuff. I just have so much stuff that I tell them not to get me things, but they get me things anyway. And a lot of times I will repurpose a lot of the gifts that I receive. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not fighting over finances. So, if you're not on the same page with the significant other, have that conversation. Learning how to cook gourmet meals. Again, learning what the free forms of entertainment and fun are in your area. And just be creative. Get your family and friends involved. So it's important for the family to understand where you are with the finances. Now, I understand as parents, we don't want our kids, in our business like that. But with my kids, I have four, and so I've always made them aware that whatever is happening with one, it affects us all. So yeah, you might be the oldest kid, but there are three more coming behind you. Yeah, we're gonna try and help you go to college, but guess what? There's a limit to what we can do because there are three more that we're also trying to help send to college. So get your family, get friends involved, without letting them know, but you want to, be mindful, particularly during the holidays. If you can't afford to give gifts to everyone this year, just suggest, hey, maybe we draw names this year to kind of cut down on the amount that we're spending on gifts. So there are ways that you can get family and friends involved without letting them know the intimate details of what's going on with your finances. Use money wisely. That definitely goes without saying. Invest and learn. Educate yourself. We have so much information available to us on the internet that there's really no excuse these days and times for not understanding good financial management practices and habits. So take the time to educate yourself if you feel like you don't know how to make wise decisions. Plan ahead when possible for making those big purchases. And then do access the resources that are available to you through the Employee Assistance Program. Financial counselors like myself, we're available to have those conversations with you, to hold your hand through the process, to kind of recommend resources, get you connected with places and things in your local area that might be able to assist you. Final things, be willing to give up some money. Realize all that you have. Stick with your new budget and believe that your financial success is possible. All right. So these are just some of the resources that are available to you through the Employee Assistance Programs. You, yourself, your household members are eligible to call. Often tell spouses and family members, hey, your spouse can call and have a conversation with me. I can't tell them anything that I talk with you about because we keep all those conversations, and the fact that you utilize these services is completely confidential. So any of your family members that would like to utilize the service, they can feel free to call in knowing that we won't share that information with anyone else in the household. So Any other questions? I know we're limited on time, but I do want to open the floor if anyone had any questions.
Okay, we do have two.
Okay?
Do you want me to read those or do you want to check the chat box?
Yeah, if you would read them, that would be great.
Oh, okay. First one I have is, you said that when it comes to paying debt, pay off the expensive debt. I have 12 student loans, and when I pay extra toward the principal on them, I pay on the cheaper ones first to try and get a few of the smaller ones knocked off quicker. Should I change my focus and start paying more on the most expensive loans?
Yeah, a lot of that too is going to depend on the type of repayment plan that you have. So if you're on like a consolidated or graduated or extended plan that's stretching out your payments for a long period of time, then you're going to over time pay more interest on those loans. So it may be best that you go to maybe a standard repayment, which is a 10-year. So there are varying grades in between, but a lot of it depends on what your goal is for paying off. So if your goal is, I got to have a low monthly payment that I can afford, then that will be your strategy. Just, pay on the things that you can, focus on the higher interest rates, but keeping that monthly payment low and affordable. If you do have the income that you can go to a 10-year repayment plan, then, you may want to think about consolidation or going and calculating what your payment would be to get them paid off in 10 years.
Okay, the next one, when paying off smaller credit cards, is it better to cancel the card or to keep it at a zero balance?
It is absolutely essential to keep the credit cards open. That is because part of your calculation for your credit score is your available credit. So when you cancel those cards and those cards are closed, it takes away from your available credit. For instance, if you have several credit cards with the available credit of 20,000, but you're only using 3,000, then you have a low utilization rate of your available credit, and that's going to be positive for your credit score. But say you close those accounts, that 20,000 goes to 5,000, and you're using 3,000 of your available $5,000 limit, then your utilization rate just shot up to over 50%, and that's going to impact your credit score. So that's the importance behind leaving those accounts open.
Okay, and then another one. I have established an excellent credit rating, but now my daughter wants me to be a co-signer on a lease for her to rent an apartment. I'm skeptical about her staying current on her payments from past experience. How can I help her yet establish a process to be sure she doesn't fall behind?
Okay. My first word of caution is go into it assuming you will have to make that payment sometime. If you cannot afford to make that payment in the event she cannot, then my recommendation is to not put your name on there, because ultimately you are responsible for that payment. I had that same conversation with my daughter who wanted to live off campus last year. I ultimately agreed to co-sign on the apartment with her. And I did have to make that payment from time to time. But I went into it with the notion that, yeah, I'm going to have to make that payment if she can't. So, I understand you want to help. And as parents, we want to do all that we can to help. But if it's going to put you at a disadvantage or make you fall behind on your own finances by making that payment, then I would think twice about doing it.
And actually, that looks like all we have for questions right now.
Okay.
They can certainly follow up and reach out to the Bureau of Human Resources. If they do find after this, they will say, oh, shoot, I found this other question. They can certainly reach out to us, or like you said, any of the EAP programs that we offer with you folks. And let me check the time for us too. I guess I don't even know where we sit for time. Okay, we are right at 1 p.m. So Darlette, I want to thank you so much for your time and for doing this for us. Do you have any closing words you'd like to share?
I would just like to thank you all for your patience with me through my technical difficulties. As I say, I'm an educator. I'm not a tech person. So I apologize if there has been any inconvenience through any of my technology or anything going on, but it's been my true pleasure to talk with you. This is what I enjoy doing, is helping people with their finances. And so if you do have any questions, follow-up questions, feel free to send those. If you want to call into the Employee Assistance Program, I'm available, as well as a lot of other competent and financial counselors that can speak with you. So please utilize the resources that are available to you. And that's it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Take care.